get started, I would like to introduce KYZEN's own Tom Forsythe.
Thank you, Chelsea, and good morning, everyone. We're here today to talk about cleaning solutions, focusing on splitting chemistries versus emulsions on tech to tech. Before we get into the emulsion chemistry itself, I think there's a great question to ask as far as, well, how many different ways are there to design a cleaning material? Well, it turns out there are a lot of different techniques. There are a lot of chemical and physical property techniques that go into cleaning, and we're not going to speak about those today, but bear in mind that they do are present in most of the cleaners that you're running each and every day in your operation. But today, we're here to talk about emulsion cleaners. And I think we start with, well, just what are they? Well, emulsions are a combination of things that don't like to go together. The chemical term is they're immiscible. They don't go into solution. Think of oil and water, right? We know from some people have salad dressings, or if you just use oil around the house, oil and water don't mix. Well, emulsions make that statement wrong. I guess they're the exception that proves the rule. And they're designed with emulsifiers, materials that help combine those two things, in this case, oil and water, that don't want to go together. And in the cleaning world, they tend to be oil droplets suspended in the water. So there's lots of water on the outside and there's some oil on the inside. Now, emulsions have been around for a long time. They're very proven technology. They look kind of like this. They look milky. And they're really solvent cleaners in an aqueous package. And because of that, they clean quite well. They're really good on heavy greases and oils. They can hold a fair amount of soil. They're also very helpful if you're in an intermediate cleaning step where you don't need complete cleaning, or perhaps you definitely want some corrosion control protection in between steps. You don't rinse them. You can get some short-term corrosion protection from those products by just leaving them on there, which can be very convenient and cost effective. While they can be spray, they're often typically immersion products. When we talk about the splitting chemistries, well, we've got many cleaning actions. That little slide I showed earlier with whether it was wetting or deflocculation or what have you. Many of these are at play in these splitting products. They can also be alkaline or acidic, which is handy if you need to remove rust and things. Tend to go to the acidic range. Also, water-based materials. Soil loading is quite positive for this, not because they can absorb so much soil, but because in fact they help remove the soil, but then they reject it. It floats to the top, as you see in this picture, where we've got a little brown layer over here, and that's very effective for tank life because now that soil is removed, the product can continue to work. That helps extend the shelf life, which helps on the disposal. These products can be they're designed for immersion or spray, sometimes both, but usually one or the other. And they're also, you can find them for a range of metals. Sometimes it's just one, but often they're multi-metal safe. So, here we are, we're choosing sort of between the splitting and the emulsifying. And the first thing you'll notice, and I'll get to this in a minute, is there's no layer on the emulsifiers because, of course, they're absorbing that oil. Now let's go in and talk about some of the trade-offs because every technology has its trade-offs, and both of these do as well. So when we look at those trade-offs or negatives on the emulsion side, because they're fundamentally an oil product, they really need good rinsing. Good rinsing can be a longer rinse, it could be a higher pressure rinse, it could be a warm rinse instead of a cold rinse. But you really need to work hard if you want to have a really clean surface on the backside. Like hand in hand with that, because you need that extra rinsing, well, the drying can be challenging because getting that oil off and dry can be an issue. The economics are not always attractive. Sometimes the pricing can be attractive, but because of the shorter tank lives, you tend to go through more product. So that can be a challenge on the emulsions. And once again, tying back into that rinsing, they're not always the final answer. In that it's quite often when you find emulsion products being used in a line to take off a really heavy layer of grease or oil, they may have a secondary cleaning step further down the production line that is a different technology. Could be an alkaline product that's there to remove not only a little bit of soil, but also to remove the emulsion cleaner. So that's one of the couple of the challenges on the emulsion side. Well, the splitters have some challenges as well. That whole splitting thing, we've got that layer of oil at the top. Well, we've got to skim it. We've got to remove that, or we're in a bad spot. The land of aqueous cleaners is wide, broad, lots of technologies, lots of high cost and low cost, super effective, moderately effective, uh, some multi-metal safe, some targeted towards specific metals. it's a big range of choices out there, and all those choices themselves can be a negative because sometimes it's hard to find the right one that is perfectly aligned for what you need. That can be a real challenge, and it's easy to make a mistake and to pick something that works for a colleague in another part of the facility or a friend in another building that really isn't well suited for you. So that's one of the bigger challenges. I spent a couple of minutes talking about this splitting or skimming, or also known as coalescing. And this picture here is pretty telling, and that this handle in the middle here, where that's hooked to a basket, so our parts are below that, and of course all this brown here, well, that's oil. It's oil that the product has separated, has spit out. But if I don't move it out of the way, it's just going to redeppose on my parts, and that's really counterproductive. So the trick here is we've got this little box that's in the middle. Well, that is a coalescer, but it's set up improperly. You'll see this lip is nowhere near the surface, and that's why all that oil's there. Now, if we look at the next picture, you see a completely different story, although this is exactly the same device, just a little bit later. The first thing you'll notice is it's no longer brown. And it's not brown because we've gotten all the oil off. And part of the reason we've gotten the oil off is because the coalescer is set up properly. If you look here, that lip is right at the surface. And so if I pull those parts out, well, they're going to come out nice and clean because I'm not going to redepose my oil on top of them. And that's really positive. That's our goal. I'm going to spend a minute here talking about how a coalescer works. Well, it works because that fundamental element of oil and water don't mix. Well, the oil is the soil, right? So as my flow comes in and it's a mixture of the contaminant and the washing fluid, goes into this tank where it's kind of a quiet tank. It lets the material settle or rest. And when the material gets to settle, well, just gravity. We've got different specific gravities. Oil tends to float on water. The sulfonated materials sink, but they're not as common anymore. Most oils float. And as that happens, it separates. You'll notice we've got some good hydraulic work going on here. We're moving the fluids in kind of in the middle. The oil floats the top and is allowed to separate itself out. I've got a weir wall here and where my flow comes underneath. And once again, I've got a little drain here that's slightly below my water level. So I can let that water or wash fluid make its way back out and be used again. So it's very helpful and very effective and quite simple. There's many suppliers, many designs. It's quite common to see coalescing panels like this in these baths. These often are made out of plastic because the oils are attracted to the plastic. That helps encourage those oils to separate out and to float to the surface to allow the clean wash fluid to go to the bottom. A lot of different designs, a lot of little float mechanisms, and getting all those hydraulics right. So it's really a well-known technology that is, frankly, doesn't have an on-off switch. So there's a lot to like for something that's that simple to operate. So as we take a step back and sort of review, each of these technologies really has their place. In the first place, the emulsifiers, we talked about them. Well, they're really good on those heavy oils. They do a great job, and that coarse cleaning can be very challenging. Plus, if this is an intermediate step and you're going on to a follow-on machining and you just need a light cleaning, well, now you can leave some material on there for a corrosion protection layer in between, and that's quite positive. The splitters really, their benefit is they provide that long bath life. Because you're able to take that contaminant out, the tanks tend to last, they don't load. Because you're taking those contaminants out, you're taking out the oil, the process itself runs cleaner and more effectively. A cleaner bath turns into cleaner parts. And of course, because of that long bath life, you have fewer change outs. Fewer change outs mean you buy less cleaning material. That's a lower cost. You have less waste disposal. That's a lower cost. So when we come around to say, okay, which way is the way to go for between the oil splitting and emulsifying? While they both have their roles, splitters are the winner for most people these days. They tend to be the technology that helps people get there, although the emulsion products really have their place. So with that, I'll hand it back to Chelsea and we'll see if we have any questions.
Thank you, Tom. If you'd like to discuss this topic further, please contact your local KYZEN representative or send an email to tech@kaizen.com, and we will have one of our cleaning experts schedule a follow-up with you as soon as possible. Again, we thank you all for joining us today, and we hope to see you again soon. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great day.